Who is exempt from fasting? Who does not have to fast? And what happens? What are the rulings if you don't fast? What do you do? All right. So number one, the first type of people who are exempt from fasting are people who are ill, sick, people who have disorders and other health conditions, people who are of really old age, pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and people who are traveling. How many were there? How many? Anyone count them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So illness, disorders, other health conditions, old age, pregnancy, breastfeeding, and traveling. The first one, sickness and illness. It only applies to temporary illness. So let's talk about temporary sickness, or in medical terms, onset illness or acute conditions. They're conditions that happen to you like, for example, such as the flu virus, asthma attack, a severe injury, a broken bone, serious wound requiring antibiotics, medication, or loss of a lot of blood, and so on, sudden severe low or high blood pressure, mild to serious infections or inflammations, for example, pneumonia, bronchitis, joint and skin infections, inflammations, and so on. All of these are types of serious infections and inflammations. Or, for example, diabetes type 2, although it is considered a chronic condition, meaning ongoing, I put it here because it can be managed before and after fasting. Like some people who have type 2 diabetes, they can take insulin pills before in suhoor time and after fasting. And then when it gets bad for them during the day, they need a jelly bean or need to break their fast for some sugar intake, then they break their fast. Such as a sudden sugar depletion can happen in the day before they break their fast. And those who have these conditions, any of what I mentioned here, the likes of them, then it is preferred for them to break their fast and make up another day. Now the old age one, I've got a comment on that. Preferred only if the old age person does have already a lot of several medical conditions like kidney problems and liver problems and heart conditions, then it's preferred for them. But just for merely being old, we'll talk about it in a little bit. If your normal illness is of very serious condition, or you fear serious harm on yourself, then it is haram to fast. Let's say that you have a serious infection and the doctor tells you if you don't break your fast, any moment it's going to go into your bloodstream and you can have a stroke or a heart attack or poisoning. Now that's pretty serious. Then it becomes haram to actually fast because there's a serious life-threatening condition. We move on to the next one. People who have terminal or chronic conditions, which means ongoing sicknesses, requiring intensive ongoing management care such as regular medication and nutrients. For example, diabetes type 1. Those who know what difference is, type 1 is the more severe one. Heart diseases and strokes, lung, kidney, liver diseases, not sickness, disease. Neurological diseases like Alzheimer's or multiple sclerosis and other degenerative diseases and so on. These are all exempt from fasting completely altogether. And they do not need to make up their fast at all. Okay. The first one, who has a temporary sickness, needs to make up that day that they broke their fast later on in the year, when they feel better. The person with a permanent illness or a chronic illness or a terminal illness, they don't need to make up their fast at all, but they need to feed one poor person for each day that they couldn't fast in Ramadan. So it's 29 days or 30 days. They feed approximately, in Australia, it's about $10, $12, which would be enough to feed a poor person. Someone asked me, his father or their parent are very poor. You know, they live just enough for himself and his wife. Anything extra, he can't feed. He can probably feed 1 or 2 people, can't feed 30 people, $600 or $700. So we say to them, you feed as many people as you can. Another way to feed them is from your own food. If you know any poor people around, could be a neighbor, could be homeless, could be someone, you feed them from your own food, share it, whatever you can. Can't feed for all 60 days, you can't afford it, feed for 15 days. Can't afford 15, feed 10. Can't afford that, feed 1. Can't afford that, feed your own wife and your family. And inshallah, Allah knows. We move on now. What about old age and frailty? This can start from the age of 65 onwards, depending on health and medical advice. I'm not saying everyone here who's over 65 is in a bad condition. I'm saying it starts from 65 onwards that people start to degenerate, can easily get sick, depending on your genetics. If you're like my dad from the village, who's drank all that filtered water from the streams and mountain, mashallah, you know, you're okay till 100 maybe. But inshallah, and all your fathers and mothers. But after 65 onwards, it's a bit careful. You've got to get medical advice. Okay, what about old people? Allah says in the Quran, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. For those who are capable of fasting but still do not fast, there is a redemption, feeding a needy man or a needy person for each day missed. Whoever voluntarily does more good than is required will find it better for him, and that you should fast is better for you if only you knew. So even old people, if they're able to fast and there's no severe health issues, even though they're a bit frail, fasting is better for them. Otherwise, under doctor's advice, feed a poor person for each day and they don't have to make it up at all. Is that clear, inshallah? All right, move on now.